When I look at the sweep of human history, for me, probably the four greatest realizations of humanity so far are, first, simply the recognition of ourselves and the recognition of abstraction. That we can recognize that something exists which is invisible, and that we can reflect on ourselves, I think it was the first major breakthrough. And the next is philosophy. It's actually using logic to try to understand the world. And then that grew into the scientific method, because the scientific method is very different than a bunch of opinions, no matter how much those opinions are backed up by guns or money or majority rule or vote or whatever. The key to the scientific method is rigorous pursuit of the truth through evidence. And then finally, the next big discovery to me was the free market, which is basically freeing up the toruses of the human level to interact through freedom, because that's what a true and vibrant economy is based on. So the essence of all of that, for me, is the quest for truth. And so for me, science is a critical source of worldview. I think most worldview originally just came from kind of superstition and whatever the dictates of the most powerful people were, and then it moved on to coming from the religious leaders, and then it moved on to kind of coming from the state, because both the religious leaders and the state have gone through centuries of enforcing their worldview through fear and threats and violence. But the scientific era has given us the opportunity to have abstract theories, but then to have to test them in the real world to see are our guesses correct, or they need to be adjusted, and whatever theories we come up with, are they applicable? Are they useful? And for me, my most influential teachers in science, the four most important visionary scientists in my education, were Arthur Young, Buckminster Fuller, Walter Russell, and Nassim Haramein. And if you look at their work, they're all based on the torus and the vector equilibrium, and most of them didn't even know each other. So it wasn't that they had some ingenious concoction, it was that they were very bold and skilled at looking at the universe around them and at listening to the universe inside them. They're all what I call visionary scientists. And those are the ones that have always interested me the most. And what I mean by that is that they all had profound visions where they were actually shown by cosmic consciousness, they were shown how certain aspects of the universe work. And then they were all willing to go out and do their homework to try to figure out the language to communicate with more traditional scientists the visions that they had had, so that they could be tested and applied. So for me, the science is a really critical part of where spirituality meets the material world. And an example for me is in my scientific pursuits, when the deeper I looked into the question of who am I, the old yogic quest, with a scientific perspective, I look, okay, well, most people think they're their bodies. When I look at my body, I'm a collection of all of these cells, which are a collection of zillions of molecules and more zillions of atoms. But when you get down in there and you realize that most of that's so-called empty space or full space, and then there are these little things that we've given names to called electrons and protons and so forth, but there's no evidence that the universe is making billiard balls. The only evidence is that there are whirlpools in the infinite sea of energy. So the realization that there are no things, that the material world is a relationship of vibratory, frequencies and rotation rates, is a complete mind blower, literally, if we think who we are is our body. So along with that, and I know the students in your academy are really well versed, as most people are not, that we're really living in an infinite alive universe as opposed to a bounded and dead one. And so the more I have been willing to be rigorous in my science, the more it has led me to the obviousness of the experience of the infinite and the ineffable, and the fact that consciousness is primary.